Churchill led a determined fight against Hitler. Well, the French and British declared war, but for 8 months no war was fought. It was called a phony war, because it looked like nothing. But what Hitler was doing, Hitler had not expected that France and Britain would declare war, so he spent 8 months planning his next move. Then when he made it, it was like he burst out of his seams. All right, the French, here's what I was talking about earlier. The French had built a line between France and Germany called the Maginot Line. The Maginot Line, in which they were counting on to defend them. The Maginot Line had a whole bunch of machine guns and heavy artillery and trenches. I mean, these trenches were fortified with concrete. It proved useless. Yes?
Who did you say?
The French built the Maginot Line. Yeah. But the Germans did what they, and folks, this makes the French look so ignorant. The Germans during World War I had tried to go through Belgium, and the King of Belgium at the time stopped them. Well, the old king had died, and his son had taken over. The new king fought the Germans for 1 hour and surrendered. 1 hour, surrendered. The French were counting on Belgium holding off. So basically the Germans went around the Maginot Line, and France had to surrender. Now some of the French fought. Now while the French though were still fighting, down here to the south, Mussolini sat on the sidelines and did nothing, waiting to see which side would win. When it became obvious that France was doomed, Mussolini jumped into the fight. But now, again, if any of you are Italians, I apologize. The Italian army was soundly equipped for what was left of the French army. Nevertheless, the French had to surrender. Hitler said to his buddy Mussolini, join me sooner next time we get more territory. So Hitler gave Mussolini a few hundred yards of French territory. Oh, hey, you join me sooner, I'll give you more next time. France was out of the war. Sad. And the war was almost over, folk. Almost ended, but the British began to flee, and they fled, of course, towards the North Sea. They got to the North Sea to a place called Dunkirk. 300,000 British soldiers were trapped. All that had to be done, the Germans were going to Dunkirk to get them, but Hitler told the German generals, hey, come here to Berlin. I know this is a trap. They're trying to lure us into a trap. Don't go to Dunkirk right now. The English people crossed the English Channel, rescued the 300,000 men, and the war went on. If those men had been forced to surrender, it is likely the war would have ended right there. As for the equipment that the British had to leave behind, it was no big deal. The equipment was old and obsolete anyway. Besides, the British were getting more new equipment from the United States. Winston Churchill made a speech. He said, we'll fight them in the sea. We'll fight them on the beaches. We'll fight them in the valleys. We'll fight them on the plains. We'll fight them in the foothills. We'll fight them in the mountains. We shall defend our island. We shall never surrender. I promise you people nothing but blood, sweat, toil, and tears. The people have honored him for that speech ever since. Anyway, the 300,000 men lived to return later. In the meantime, Hitler went on to conquer Denmark, Norway, forced the King of Norway to flee. Then he engaged the British in what's called the Battle of Britain. Sadly, most young Britishers in school today cannot tell you what the Battle of Britain was. The Battle of Britain was a battle of the air. It was a battle of the British Royal Air Force against the German Luftwaffe. And here, Hitler suffered his first major defeat. The British pilots would get in their planes, go out and shoot down as many German planes as they could and come back, get out the next night. Churchill was later to say, never have so many owed so much to so few. The Battle of Britain was over after a while, and a lot of the British pilots wondered, well, they'd come home with their planes so badly damaged they couldn't fly them again, but the next night they have another plane, and I wonder, where do those planes keep coming from? Well, they came from the United States. But the British kept fighting. Then Hitler had to make a decision. He had lost his air fight, which meant that basically the British controlled the air. That was a big advantage. Should he invade Britain? This bothered him. Should he invade Britain? Well, his decision was made for him by his buddy Mussolini to the south. Mussolini had dreams of conquering and rebuilding the Roman Empire. So first Mussolini invaded Greece. Greece was a small country, easy to defeat. No, it wasn't. Greece whipped him. Mussolini lost everything he engaged in. He actually lost to France when France was already doomed. Oh yeah, by the way, when Mussolini invaded France, Roosevelt, watching from across the Atlantic, said the hand that held the dagger has thrust it in the back of its neighbor. But anyway, when Mussolini invaded Greece, the Greeks won. So Hitler made his big mistake here. Instead of invading Britain, he moved his army south to help his buddy Mussolini. Okay, and that was...
I would, Doctor, I'm at 1:30 and I didn't.
Okay, the class ends at 1:45, but you're welcome to go.
Thank you very much. I remember it wasn't allowed to.
The class actually ends at 1:45. And if I get caught dismissing, that's something, I'm part-time, you know. I can be fired easily. All right, yeah, okay. We all understood, the class ends at 1:45. All right. Anyway, Hitler helped his buddy Mussolini, and he killed more than 1 million Greeks. But one Greek who escaped was the prince, Prince Philip. Prince Philip went on to marry Princess Elizabeth and is still alive today as the father of the next heir of the throne, Prince Charles. So anyway, that's a side story, but nevertheless part of it. Prince Philip, and we have Queen Elizabeth II has never made her husband a British citizen. He's still a foreigner. Don't ask me why. I think she wants to let him know I'm in charge and you're an outsider. I don't know that. Anyway, now Queen Elizabeth II I believe to be a good woman. Really do. Yeah. Morally upright. I mean, a pretty good woman. But anyway, and she can't help what some of her children have done. All right. Anyway, Hitler made his biggest mistake of the war. After soundly whipping the Greeks, instead of going back to fight the British, he turned on the Soviet Union. Hitler's advisor said, hey, Mr. Hitler, we fought a two-front war when you were young, and we can't fight a two-front war. We don't have the resources. Hitler said, no, I know that Russia is planning to invade me. He learned that from his contact with Spiritists, by the way. The Soviet Union was not planning to invade. In fact, Hitler had made a treaty with Stalin that he didn't keep. Anyway, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, but Hitler had it all planned out. Now, the first cold wave is going to come in. Yeah, you can't predict these things. The first cold wave came in 3 weeks before Hitler planned and caught Hitler's army out in a cold. Now, all the Russian troops had to do was go to the barracks and check out their parkas, and they were warm. All the Germans did was freeze to death in droves. Hitler got deep into Russia and almost got to Moscow. And they show a famous photo taken of a German soldier lying in the snow. The German soldier was the closest one to get to Moscow. He was 40 miles from Moscow's limits. Never got to Moscow. Now, the siege of Leningrad. Leningrad is a Russian city, lasted 900 days, during which time the United States got involved in the war, and it forced the people of Russia to eat rodents to survive. Now, this sounds gross, but this is in the book. The Russian young men were decimated, and to this day, Russia is still somewhat depopulated because of the men they lost. The Soviet Union lost a very, very high percentage of its young men. Very high. And folk, if you read the right book, there are persons who will say that Hitler had developed the atomic bomb and was using the atomic bomb under Russia. But this cannot be proven because the Russians would not let us into the territory. But now the smoke, you might say, has cleared. But this cannot be proven. But we do know that the Russian casualty figures were extremely high. Why didn't Hitler use the atomic bomb against the United States and Britain? Simply because he was wanting. Hitler believed almost the last that the United States was going to join on his side so that Hitler and us would fight the Soviet Union together with Britain. The United States, Britain, and Germany would get together and fight the Soviet Union. It might have happened had it not been for the Holocaust. Well, so Hitler made 3 mistakes. Mistake 1 was not in getting the army at Dunkirk when he could have. Mistake 2 was helping his buddy Mussolini. What he should have done, he should have told his buddy Mussolini, listen, I did not authorize this move on Greece. You handle the Greece. I can't help you. Instead, he moved and took his army away from Britain and gave the British time to rebuild. Gave the British time to reorganize. All of which the British desperately needed. And then his third move, his worst move ever, was in going to invade the Soviet Union, which he expected would be an easy conquest. It wasn't. The Soviet Union was big, and the Soviet Union has cold, super, super cold winters. King Charles XII of Sweden found that out the hard way. Napoleon Bonaparte found that out the hard way. And Hitler, who should have known better, learned that the Soviet Union has cold winters. In all 3 cases, the Russian winter defeated the invading army. The Soviet Union, when they invaded, they took all their factories and moved them to farther to the east, safer locations. Women were used in the war effort, even actually shooting guns, shooting rifles at the Germans in combat. Leningrad was besieged for 900 days. The Russians put up fierce resistance. The German army was frozen. Only a few frozen, shell-shocked Germans were finally left to surrender. Hitler would keep giving orders to his troops, fight to the last man, fight to the last man. The German armies were begging, please, can we retreat? No, stay there, fight to the last man. Finally, they didn't have enough gasoline to retreat on, and a few of them that were left surrendered, and they were taken as prisoners of war. So Germany, the nation that defeated Russia in World War I, lost to the Soviet Union in World War II. All right. First big move now, first big defeat. I mean, while the defeat of Russia was the second big defeat for Germany. Now, I'll close with this. The United States sent armaments into the Soviet Union and Britain, tons and tons, for which the Soviet Union has never paid us back.
You said they sent what, I'm sorry?
The United States sent its tanks, its planes, its heavy artillery, its ammunition by the tons into the Soviet Union to help the Soviet Union fight. Hitler had to have known it. But Hitler did not. It was an act of war. I mean, helping the enemy was an act of war. Hitler did not want to fight the United States because the United States was big, and Hitler knew the United States had defeated Germany and Austria in World War I, Hitler being an Austrian. But anyway, Hitler had to have known that the United States was helping, but Hitler would not declare war on the United States yet. He didn't until, again, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Then the United States declared war on Japan, and only then did Hitler declare war on the United States. But in that case, too, Hitler should have told Japan, "Oh, wait, you did this without me. I didn't know you were going to do this. And see, this is one reason that the side lost, Italy and Germany and Japan lost. Their leaders would make a move without telling the other. In our case, we even let Stalin in on everything we were doing. And Stalin knew where we were and knew what our plans were. And we did not make a move without consulting Stalin. He did not make a move without consulting us. And among the bad guys, Hitler and Mussolini and Tojo, they did not have that kind of communication. So Japan attacked the United States without Hitler's knowledge. Hitler should have said to Japan, hey, I did not authorize this, I didn't know about this, you take care of the United States yourself. Instead, Hitler declared war on the United States, and the result was, that was another bad move on Hitler's part. He could not take on the whole world. But that's a topic for the next time. Everybody have a good couple of days. You are dismissed, and I will see you Thursday, hopefully all of you.